The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Let's go! What time is it? Game time! Game time! It's gonna be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
The 9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world. Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to the Max, and this is of course the NFL edition. We are talking about week 3 of the NFL season as they get ready to go for the Sunday games, and of course the one Thursday game that already happened. Boy, talk about absolute demolition of one team to another, and I don't think it was the team that we were expecting.
I cannot believe that any of the three of us could be the quarterback for the New England Patriots, and they would still find a way to win. It's ridiculous what this team is doing right now.
Oh, you're exactly right about that. I mean, coming into this, I really thought, okay, finally, there's going to be, kind of some turnovers and something that's going to happen awry for the New England Patriots, and then there you go. Houston's going to find a victory. Not at all. I mean, it's almost like Belichick knows every player on his team, the perfect way to play them, the strategy. Hey, if we lose somebody, no big deal. I mean, if we lose a center, a tight end can go in there and play center. It's ridiculous. It shocks me, but then again, it doesn't because, this is the Bill Belichick, this is the New England Patriots, and they overcome everything.
My Lord, yeah, they do. And you were talking about, turnovers. It was the Houston Texans that were committing turnovers left and right, fumbling, Brock Osweiler throwing interceptions, guys running into return men. I mean, basically, Houston Texans got knocked silly in this game and could not recover. And Jacoby Brissett looked fine. He was running. He had that big run touchdown. He, LeGarrette Blount was just doing his thing. I mean, that dude is a bulldozer, just absolutely running through people and running through to get touchdowns too.
Yeah, he is. And, I wasn't really sold. I just thought, man, okay, this Houston defense is pretty good. They're going to be able to bottle him up. They're not really worried about Brissett. They'll, probably play run defense primarily because he can run too, and it just did not work out. And, man, LeGarrette Blount facing two good defenses, facing Miami and making them look bad, facing the Texans, making them look bad. I mean, this guy looks like he Superman or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
I more look at it as just the game plan in New England was amazing. Brissett was great. They hid his flaws well and used his mobility to absolute perfection. LeGarrette Blount, yes, he was running over people, but it was more in that second half when you could just tell that Houston knew that they had nothing on offense. I don't know what it was. I mean, the commentators said it a lot in the first half where New England would just bring the safeties back and make sure that Hopkins and Fuller could not beat them deep, which just begged Houston to run the ball, and then Lamar Miller just couldn't get that big run going. So it just seemed like drives were always hitting third down and in key plays, and when you're there, Brock Osweiler just is not good enough to get the job done. DeAndre Hopkins saved him on 2 of them with crazy one-handed catches that extended drives. Then, as Sean said, you had the 2 special teams turnovers as well as an interception by Osweiler. And by the 4th quarter, you could tell one team was playing, and it wasn't Houston.
Yeah, I mean, it was Osweiler doesn't even get 200 yards, an interception. I mean, Houston doesn't score points, guys. I mean, I don't think any of us thought that if there were Houston not scoring at least a field goal, jeez. I mean, just amazing to me how they have. You lose, or Tom Brady can't play for another 2 games or another game. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. He's not playing in this game. Jacoby Brissett, Michael Irvin said it. You gotta rename those trophies to Belichick's now.
Oh boy, that is painful. But yeah, I mean, it almost feels like it. Honestly, I mean, this guy's won more than Vince Lombardi did. So how can you argue?
Randy's like, I'm not doing it.
I know.
I don't. It's so gross. Like, you go into the season as a Jets fan or a fan of any of the AFC East teams going, all right, if the first 4 weeks can just go our way, we can go 3-1. Hopefully that, they can fall to like 1-3 and we can get a bit of a head start. We have a chance. The worse the quarterback talent is for New England, the better the team is. My only hope now is when Tom Brady comes back, they suck. That's it. That's all you can hope for.
Yeah, and freaking Gronk hardly played in this game, and they were still fine. And I think he only threw to like Martellus Bennett like twice. So it was like Edelman. It was basically Edelman and Blunt.
Yeah.
For the most part, but
that was your offense, and that's all you needed because that Houston offense had 0 answers for the game plan that New England had, and give them 100% credit for that.
But all right, guys, I think, and we talked about enough as you can of a 27-0 drubbing of one team of another here, so probably should get into the rest of the matchups that are happening on this evening. And having said that, if I'm Buffalo next week, if I'm Rex Ryan, what a slate of 2 games that I got back-to-back, let me tell you. The Arizona Cardinals coming into Buffalo, where they are right now favored 94% to 6% on this pick'em thing that I'm looking at. For Arizona to win, and for Buffalo to go 0-3 on the season. Is that what's happening here? Buffalo going 0-3?
My only question is, who is Rex Ryan going to fire after this blowout?
He's going to fire his brother.
He won't. He will fire the ball boy or the special teams coach or something. He will find somebody else to fire before he ever fires his blood. And, I mean, that was proven because the defense completely gets shellacked by Rex Ryan and the Jets last Thursday, and they fired the offensive coordinator, which made absolutely no sense. I don't see them doing anything here. You're looking at a team in Arizona who completely got things on track last week after getting beat by this New England Patriots, which I can no longer say that was an upset win in week 1. It's just the Patriots are that good. But Palmer's better than Fitzpatrick. They have more weapons in Arizona than New York. Their running back is better and younger, but they play the same kind of style of offense. So here you go, Buffalo, a repeat of last Thursday, just with more talent. Good luck.
Yeah, simply said, Arizona should take care of business, and I mean, it to me will not be a contest. I just don't see it. I mean, Buffalo is now kind of in that whole whose fault is it, and it's this early in the season. I mean, you can't go through that process and not have a little chaos. I don't see them overcoming this, not at least against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. I just can't see it. I can't see it for Buffalo here. Arizona all the way for all 3 of us. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns going into Miami with Cody Kessler at quarterback. 2-0-2 teams, by the way, guys. This is where Miami finally picks up that win. Now, if Josh McCown was the quarterback, I really think that Cleveland has a good shot, but I just don't know what to think with Kessler here. And I think Corey Coleman broke his hand, so he's out as well.
Yeah. He's not in there as well. Just things getting for going bad to worse for Cleveland as they continue to go down the quarterback carousel as well. Not with the same success as New England. I love Tannehill and his offense against a rough Cleveland Browns defense who have completely struggled this year. You kind of saw that in the second half against New England. A lot of junk time, but you could see signs that they were figuring out this offense. The fact that they now have two deep threat weapons is only going to help them. And Tannehill's using his legs because nobody else can run the ball in Miami, but they have that deep threat potential that Buffalo keeps saying that they have, but they have more of a balanced offense on top of it. Plus that defense is too good. I like Miami big here.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe Cleveland can try to stick around, but let's be honest, they are not the New England Patriots. They are not going to be able to get Kessler to do some of the things that we saw the Patriots do with Brissett. I think that basically at the end of the day, Cleveland will hold on for a minute. By the second, third quarter, I think things start to get out of hand and they can't handle it.
Yeah, I think Miami's going to show what they showed against New England, but they're going to actually show it from the beginning this time. There's no one. I mean, look, you got to watch out for Joe Hayden. Obviously, Tannehill does have the interception bug, so he can't just go in and think that they're just going to waltz all over Cleveland because that may not happen. At least in that secondary. So be aware of that. But if he's smart and you can get the running game going, which has been a problem because I think Foster's hurt and Ajayi's hurt as well. You never know. Yeah, you can get things. Miami should win by at least a touchdown, if not more. But geez, with Miami, and it also being the renovation of the Hard Rock, or now called the Hard Rock, used to be called the Sun Life. You'd hope that means something, but geez, I just don't know with Miami. But Dolphins should win. The Denver Broncos going into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Watch out. Possible upset alert here for the Broncos?
Yeah, I think it's an upset. Actually, Cincinnati's favored in this game, and I'm okay with it. Simeon, has done a decent enough job so far, just kind of holding serve. Did okay against a bad Indianapolis defense, but now he gets a tough one here in Cincinnati on the road. And I don't know if he's up for the task. To see Andy Dalton try to make enough plays to win the game. To me, this is a defensive game. I don't see either team scoring more than 21 points, and I'm going to favor Cincinnati at home.
What do you think?
Yeah. To me, I really feel like Cincinnati, has a great shot at this game. I mean, looking at this, Andy Dalton is a guy that, let's be honest, has had some success, but at the same point this year, he's still, trying to make ways and trying to find ways to get things done. I think at the end of the day, though, I think we will have Cincinnati winning this game. I really feel like they'll find a way to get the ball out and make things happen to go their way.
Well, if I'm going to trust one defense in the entire NFL, I'm trusting the Denver Broncos defense here. Andy Dalton is not. I still don't think he's not yet the. Now, yeah, is he better than Trevor Siemian? No doubt. But it's not like the Broncos don't have weapons here. I'm trusting C.J. Anderson over the two backs that the Bengals have. I'm trusting. I mean, A.J. Green probably outdoes all the other guys on the Broncos on the wide receiver end, but if I'm looking at two defenses here and the Broncos can make some plays, cause turnovers, put Simeon in a spot where he doesn't have to do a whole lot, I'm still going to go with the Broncos until they prove to play a bad game. I can't not trust them right now.
I just checked my pick'ems. I actually did pick the Broncos. I talked myself out of it.
We're not out of Sunday yet.
Oh man, this is so. I hate this matchup because I see both teams having a shot. I'll go with the pick. Like I did in college when we did our college pick'ems. I just chose the team even though I didn't want to do it. I'm going to go with the Broncos. I already picked them. That's who I'm going with, even if I'm going to fail. Okay.
Well, there you go. Gary screwed himself if he loses.
I always like to go by. If I already picked it, I kind of like to stick with it because, I just kind of feel it's only fair.
Well, you guys went with the upset in the last game. I'm going to go with the upset here. Detroit did win in Green Bay last year. Yes, it was a bit of fluke. But I think this year their offense is much different than the one that they played last year. Detroit's offense has been really good. Now the defense, this is gonna be a shootout game because Detroit's defense is what it is. Green Bay obviously the much better defense. You'd think you'd trust them more, but I don't know. I'm just gonna go with my gut and pick the Lions, even though I'm probably gonna be wrong.
Just for the record, I did not pick the upset in the last game. Cincinnati's favored. Stop calling it an upset.
Okay.
Just saying. There's other upsets that I have. That's not one. And this is not one either. I have Green Bay. I have them big. We talked about it on the Fantasy Football podcast, how I really feel like this will be that coming out party for the Green Bay offense, which has kind of been stagnant. Mike had brought up that huge, crazy stat that it's been 16 straight games for Aaron Rodgers without going over 100 in the quarterback rating. I put it in the You Betcha Challenge, and I think he goes over that. This is, the home debut for Green Bay against a division rival. I look for them to just rack up the points here. I have Green Bay big time.
Yeah, I got Green Bay as well. I just think that there's no way they're going to allow this situation to get even worse for themselves because, I think they really felt like that they should have won last week. They're not going to go down, and lose to another divisional rival. I just don't see it. Aaron Rodgers is going to pull out his magic, and they're going to find a way to win this game.
All right. Well, I'm by myself on this one. That's fine. I might be by myself on this next one, too, because I'm going with defense over offense here. Tennessee is at home against the Oakland Raiders, who have put up an enormous amount of points in the last two games. That being said, look at who they played in their last two games. Tennessee doesn't allow this crazy amount of points, and it was a very defensive game against the Lions in last week, and they won by one. If they can figure out how to hold down the Raiders and they can come at them defensively, if Raiders haven't figured it out on defense, and they're, it's not like Tennessee doesn't have weapons that they can come out with, and Mariota can't fling the ball around as well. I think Tennessee's more adapted for this. They are at home. I'm going to go with the Titans.
Yeah, I'm going with the Titans as well. Oakland has proven that they just have not figured out how to use these young weapons on defense just yet. As you said, Tennessee's defense has been playing extremely well. The really close game with Detroit, and they kept it close with Minnesota as well. I do think they're able to control Derek Carr a little bit and keep the numbers down and control the clock with Murray. So I have the Titans winning as well.
Yeah, and what I've been talking about with Tennessee for a long time now is the fact that I love the running game. DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry. I just think that with those guys, they can run the clock down against anybody, and they can find a way to, just if they're not better than the other team, kind of suck the energy out of them by doing that. So I think, really the Oakland has struggled so much. And, I think there's going to be a time where they're going to prove that they're not a bad team. And I don't think they're bad. I just think that they're just having some issues right now. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of like you guys. I'm going to have to go with the Titans. I just think they got momentum on their side.
Minnesota going into, well, right now, it's Bank of America Stadium. When we get to Sunday, it may not be because all the riots that are going on and the protests, whatever, now the third straight day this has happened. So they are monitoring the situation, and they may move it away from there, and it may be played in Washington or it may be played in Atlanta. Talk about your ratings going down. You go play in the Georgia Dome. But at least so you might hear some funny noises. Who knows? But either way, I just think that the undefeated streak for the Minnesota Vikings kind of ends here. Could they cause problems for Cam Newton? Sure. That Minnesota defense has been tremendous. Jared McKinnon I don't think is a slouch at all, and with him and Alziada kind of doing the combo team, they've proven to be actually okay when that's had to happen. I just said this is where I worry about Sam Bradford. Carolina's defense is no joke, and even if he doesn't, if it's Sean Hill and Sam Bradford having to play because Bradford still has that banged up hand, I worry about them even more. I got Carolina here.
Yeah, look for it. I heard a thing earlier that made me laugh. The Minnesota situation is so crazy that the most healthy part of their backfield is Sam Bradford.
God.
And I don't know if that will be the case come Sunday. I never hope for injuries, but as you said, he has a banged up hand, and Carolina's defense is no joke. They're going to be bringing the pressure. I like Carolina pretty big here as they continue to get things rolling, wanting to make a statement, whether it's played in Carolina or not. It is crazy how much all of this stuff has kind of taken off since a backup quarterback decided not to stand for the national anthem. And, it's crazy that, finally, things are going out there. We're going in a crazy route to get there, but, people are getting hurt and it's taking over everything. So something tells me that in the end, this game will become secondary to all the rest of the news going on in North Carolina right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be overshadowed. But I look at this game, and no matter where it's played, I think that's just kind of like in the background. I really feel like, that the Minnesota has not faced a defense like Carolina has, and I think Sam Bradford is really going to be dealing with a lot more problems. And like Randy said, I don't wish any injuries upon the guy. I just have a lot of fear for him. And I look at the rest of this team, and I think about Adrian Peterson, all the different weapons they have are great, but I think Carolina's just going to overmatch them.
After this game, get into some NFC East divisional matchup. The New York Giants, 2-0, taking on the Washington Redskins. It is in MetLife Stadium. Washington sometimes gives New York lots of problems. I don't think this is one of those times. I think Eli Manning comes in. They're going to be throwing it around a bit. Their running game is much more dependable than the Washington running game at this point. The New York Giants front is going to cause Kirk Cousins and that offensive line some problems. I'm going to go with the Giants here.
I'm going to go the other way. I feel like that the Redskins are on a mission now, and they definitely don't want to be down in a hole and having to fight out of it. They're going to try to get back in this thing before they are in that hole. And I think that they're going to be fighting for their lives. Kirk Cousins is going to be fighting for his job. He already knows that people are talking about putting Colt McCoy in at quarterback already, and this is only the third game. So
Texas boy Colt McCoy.
Yeah, which I fear for the Redskins if they do that. Colt McCoy, he's not playing in Texas. I can't root for him. But, I look at this as a situation where the Giants are a really good team, but they're playing a divisional team, and they're going to get a big surprise. And I think some way, somehow, I don't know if it's a Deshaun Jackson touchdown at the end that wins it, but I just feel like some way it's going to be for the Giants to sit back and wonder how they lost to the Redskins.
The curse of Deshaun Jackson again on the Giants.
Yeah.
The big matchup to me, obviously, is Odell Beckham Jr. versus Josh Norman. The news has come out that Norman will be shadowing Beckham here to kind of give you that rematch.
Who's going to get ejected first?
Exactly, and that's where I think it's going to be. I think the whole point is to let Norman kind of try to get in the head of Beckham. Let's see if Beckham has matured since last season. And because the referees are going to have an itchy trigger finger when it comes to those two, because both of them should have been ejected last time. So let's kind of see how things go. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of Beckham Jr. as far as fantasy goes. Obviously, you have to start him, but I worry that he's not going to have that big of a day. And listen, this is the NFC East. They love to battle it out in that 9-7, 8-8 range, and you're not going to have a team have a 3-game lead over somebody in the division this early. So I'm taking Washington in a must-win on the road against the Giants.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I debated on this one a lot, but I'm going to stick with the Giants here. I'm going to do what you guys did for this game that I didn't do for the previous one. Jacksonville is 0-2 at home against the Baltimore Ravens, who have been a surprising 2-0, and they've, the first game they didn't look that great. The second game they kind of got back in the groove. Of course, it was against Cleveland. Jacksonville hasn't looked good. But I think having home cooking, I think their defense finally kind of turns up in this game against Joe Flacco, who is prone to throwing some interceptions. Not that Blake Bortles is not. This is also, I think, the revenge game for that last-second crazy thing that shouldn't have happened last year where Jacksonville won. I think Jacksonville makes it a little bit more definitive here, and they win by 3. Jaguars. For me.
Yeah, absolutely must-win game for Jacksonville at home here. I'm taking the Jaguars to win because, listen, I had them winning the AFC South. I can't pull away from it now. Starting 0-3 would be a disaster, especially after you just saw how terrible Houston looked. The division is still up for the taking, and Jacksonville needs to take advantage of it right now.
Yeah, and I feel like, hey, if they're going to do it, why not do it against the Ravens? I'm not thoroughly impressed with the Ravens at all. I know some people are saying, well, they're undefeated. Why can't you be? But I just go back to who they played. And that worries me a little bit for them because Jacksonville is going to be on a mission. Once again, a team that needs this victory. They don't want to fall in that hole. I'm still surprised that this whole division, we praise this division that Jacksonville's in, and yet they are where they're at. So Jacksonville's got to win.
Yep. Jacksonville has got to win. That's the refrain. So we start with the 4 o'clock games. Los Angeles going into Tampa Bay, where there is no Doug Martin for this game. He's out. That just means Charles Sims is going to come in, and he should play well. I think Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers are going to want to erase that 40-7 whacking they got from the Cardinals here. The Rams still show they can't score a lot of points, which I think is going to be a problem with Tampa Bay, who can put up points when they're not playing Arizona. So I'm going to say the Bucs, and the Bucs win big at home.
Yeah, the Los Angeles Rams still have not scored a touchdown since the 90s. My biggest question is which Jameis Winston is going to stand up. I don't know who the real Winston is. He looked amazing week 1. He looked awful in week 2. The Rams defense is no joke, but their offense is a joke. I think if Tampa Bay can get to 10, they win this game, and I say they do. Give me the Buccaneers.
That's great. Yeah, the Rams, I have flip-flopped so hard on them. I'm going to go with the Rams, though. I think that defense is going to try to pressure Winston as much as possible. I think with Doug Martin being injured, Charles Sims is great. He's a great running back, but I don't know if this offense is going to roll as smoothly as they need it to run. And I think defense can win it. I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah, now watch the Rams win like 12-10 or something, just because I'm sticking with those.
It would not surprise me.
I would not be surprised either. So we got a divisional matchup here with the Seattle Seahawks at home against San Francisco 49ers. 49ers have been able to put up points in both the games that they've been in so far. Seahawks that's been their problem. They can't put up points. Do they finally get back to the form that we're used to seeing them in against the division foe?
I would love to jump out and say absolutely, because this team is that good. But we saw how they were at home to start the season against Miami, and that was even before Russell Wilson got hurt. That offense didn't look great. Now that he is banged up, it looked worse. They completely struggled against the Rams defense and lost a battle of field goals. I'm going to take Seattle here, but I do think it's going to be a defensive battle. The 49ers defense has shown to be pretty decent, especially compared to where we thought it was going to be. Seattle just, I don't know, something is still off with them. Obviously, the offensive line is just garbage, but there's something else that's just not the same with them, whether it's just their inability to hit that big play that they made so many times last year, or maybe something else. But that offense is a mess, but I think they win a defensive battle here.
Yeah, I got to go with Seattle. I know, yeah, sure, they struggled. They've had a lot of issues. But I just feel still that defense is going to be what matters. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's we're going to determine this. And don't get me wrong, once again, San Francisco, they can surprise you, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
I almost want to pick San Francisco because Blaine Gabbert he's better than Case Keenum. And he has shown to be a bit elusive when he wants to be on the ground, and he can cause us some little problems. But the fact that, again, the 49ers have their best receiver is a tight end at this point. And, if you stop Carlos Hyde and you put it all on Gabbert, that's going to put a lot of pressure on him, and I just don't see him being able to do that. I'm going to go with the Seahawks here, but wouldn't be surprised if we get another one of these low-scoring affairs that we've had so far with the Seahawks. A game that I think we can count on surely having points is the Indianapolis Colts at home against the San Diego Chargers. Listen, I think the Chargers can come into Indianapolis, and I think they can. I know the Colts are going to be in must-win zone again, but I think the San Diego Chargers can come into Indianapolis and they can win.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from on this, and you know what, the Colts, they fought hard last week, and all the respect for that, because they, did have a shot at beating Denver, and it's one of the best teams. I really thought that, they impressed me. I was very happy to see that, but I don't know. I'm still having a hard time believing that, they're going to overcome some of their struggles. They've been really banged up in the defensive backfield, and to me, that scares me because, Phillip Rivers loves to pick apart teams. So because of that reason, I'm going to go with the Chargers. But, man, the Colts, they're going to be close.
I'm curious how this offense is going to do with no Woodhead the rest of the season. But that offense has just proven to be amazing. And actually, the defense has played far better than I was ever going to give it credit for. I had this team finishing last in the division. They may still finish there, but they're impressing me on both sides of the ball. This isn't Indianapolis. They are 0-2. Again, absolutely must-win game. I think it's a shootout like Sean says, which means we're going to get a repeat of the Giants-Saints game from last week. But I'm going to take Indianapolis here.
Randy's so right. Watch this thing be like another 15-12 game.
Don't say that, because I'll be watching this game.
I'm sorry, Gary. I'm sure it'll be fun. So we have Randy's New York Jets going into Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Always a tough place to play. And taking on Alex Smith and those Kansas City Chiefs. I'm gonna go with the Jets here. Kansas City's defense has not been the defense yet that normally we've seen them be. Yeah, Peters made some interceptions, but there were holes to be had all over that field, and the Jets have the receivers to surely take advantage of that. They got Forte as well. The Jets have been one of the teams that have been able to sort of to shut down running games, so you won't be able to depend on Spencer Ware and all that. You're going to have to win through the air, and I just don't see that happening here.
The big key to me here is if Brandon Marshall plays, he's yet to practice. He doesn't need to practice to be able to play. A veteran guy like he is. But if he does not go, I don't like the Jets' chances at all. Their big thing right now and what makes their offense so good is the fact that they have three big receivers in Decker, Marshall, and now Enunwa, who still people are sleeping on. The dude is a talented tight end, like a very athletic tight end, basically, for the Jets, because they don't use the tight end in their offense. And he almost gets 100 yards last week, on top of Matt Forte, who's just been ridiculous, not showing his age at all. I do think Powell sees a bit more work in this game as they try to bring down the touches of Forte. He's not going to have over 400 touches in the season. But the big thing for me is Marshall for the Jets. For the Kansas City Chiefs, it's if they can hit those big plays that the Jets give up. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball very well against the Jets. It's going to come down to Alex Smith and the passing game. And they showed in week 1 they can fling the ball around if need be, and I think they're going to have to. So it's whether the Jets can stop those big plays. And I like Jeremy Maclin a lot fantasy-wise because of it. But I'm going to take the Jets here. I just think they're right now the more complete team. I don't like that it's at Arrowhead. And I think if they played more, week 14, week 15, my pick would be different. But Kansas City is still trying to work out some bugs, and it feels like the Jets, especially with 3 extra days to prepare, just seem like they're more on a roll right now.
Yeah, I kind of feel that same way too, and I just think that it's time for Kansas City to break out of their shell, find that way to get a victory. I just don't think it's that way this week. I think they're going to struggle still. I think that the Jets are going to take advantage of the things that they've seen on tape and make sure they stifle Alex Smith, make sure that running game goes nowhere, and then from there, worry about their offense, taking, advantage of however they can that Kansas City defense. So, and the bottom line is I think the Jets are going to find a way to win.
Yeah, so we move on to the Battle of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. The Steelers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, 2-2-0 teams. It's in the link. It's at the link. And I'll tell you what, if Carson Wentz puts on a show against the Steelers, I'm all aboard the Carson Wentz train. And this is a battle of 2 defenses, though, as well as, can they contain Ben Roethlisberger in that offense. I just think the Steelers got a little bit too much here. I know the Eagles have a really good defense. The Steelers have a pretty competent one, and this is the best one that the Carson Wentz will have played this entire season. The Bears and the Browns are not the same as playing the Steelers here. Like I said, it's a city thing. I think the Steelers are going to win here. I think it's close, but the Steelers win.
Yeah, my brain says pick Pittsburgh here. They are the more complete team, but there's something about Philadelphia right now. Watching them on Monday, yes, Chicago is terrible. Yes, Cleveland is terrible. But it's just a whole new look for Philadelphia, and it's tough for me to go, okay, strip everything we know about Philadelphia over the last few years with Chip Kelly and all of that craziness, and look at them now, and then don't overrate what you've seen over 2 games. It's a super small sample size against 2 terrible teams, but I can't. I think Philadelphia can hold serve at home and win this game. And actually, the funny thing is, if you go listen to the fantasy podcast, this is the only pick that Mike and I had completely different. And it's just on a gut feeling that I think Philadelphia can win it.
Yeah, see, and I think you guys are completely crazy. I just don't see it in Philadelphia. I've seen this team. I've seen the defensive backs. They're not as good as advertised. They've gotten so lucky for who they play. They've gotten to really showcase that, hey, we're better than mediocre team, but play a good team, and they're going to show how mediocre they can be. I just don't believe it. I know you can make Carson Wentz out to be what you want. I think he's going to be okay, but I would not be surprised if he doesn't get his first interceptions in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers win by 10 to 15, 16, 10 to 20 points, in fact.
Well, here's the thing with Philadelphia and that secondary that why I'm starting to believe. We've seen most of the secondary in a game plan situation where they were on the field a ton. And they got tired and they got worn out, and then they would get beat. Here they are in a more balanced situation. The offense wants to control the ball. They're probably on the field half as much as they were last year. And I really think then that way they can show just how good they are. I think Chip Kelly's offense made the secondary terrible, and now with the new system, I think they can show just how good they are. Is my opinion.
No, fair enough.
Let's quiet that down. I mean, you're playing Robert Griffin III and frickin' Jay Cutler. I mean, you couldn't have asked for two worse quarterbacks to have anybody look good against. Let's see what happens when you're playing Big Ben, you're playing Antonio Brown. I mean, look, Alshon Jeffrey still got some yards because, you do a throw it up to Jeffrey, he's going to catch it. But, you're playing the Eli Rogers and the Sammy Coates and Marcus Wheatons and D'Angelo Williams. I mean, that's an entirely lethal threat team from, every position. And that's a different ask than what the Browns are with RG3 and what the Bears are. So this is going to be a really interesting game to watch at that 425 slot where they're going to have a lot of interest on them. So this is going to be I'm going to be really excited to see to watch this game. Then in the nightcap on Sunday, you get the Dallas Cowboys at home, AT&T Stadium, against the Chicago Bears. Still don't know what's going on with Jay Cutler. If somebody besides Cutler plays, well, I think we know who's winning the game. But I think we know who's winning the game regardless. But it's still got to be weary because Prescott's been really good in the first two games. It's always these teams that when you get to a situation where you think you're going to win, that you get a little bit overconfident and you start making the mistakes. And are you worried at all about Ezekiel Elliott? He fumbled last in the previous game. Is it going to be a pattern, or can he kind of overcome that here and we finally get the Elliott game that everybody's been saying is going to happen?
Now, listen, I would not sleep on. I was going to say I would not sleep on Chicago. Sleep on Chicago. They're not a great team, but Jay Cutler to me is not playing this game, and I think he's going to miss a couple weeks. And honestly, I don't think it hurts him at all. Especially in a football standpoint, if you go back and watch how Hoyer played at the end of that game, yes, I'm sure the Eagles backed off a little bit. But he was hitting all sorts of targets. He was finding Kevin White, who was basically invisible to Cutler on Monday. He was hitting the tight end. He was looking for Alshon Jeffrey. Honestly, I think Hoyer is the better fit for the Chicago offense. The rest of the team is not that great, and I do think that Dallas is going to be able to hold serve at home, but I don't think that Dallas is going to win just because Cutler doesn't play. Actually, I think if you're Dallas, you hope Jay Cutler plays.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, because he's a wild man, and he'll do whatever he wants to do, and even if it is just throwing an interception.
I will say be careful because Jeffrey could go for a lot of yards against that secondary.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that they've lost a few weapons here. Cutler, being gone, I think it could be a bad thing for Dallas because he would probably give them 2 picks or something like that in the game. Hoyer's not exactly,
Hoyer throws interceptions too now.
No, exactly. He's not exactly the most Mr. Accurate and most, positive. So I don't know. I look at this. It's still going to be a tie game. Whenever Dallas and Chicago play, it's always a difficult game, no matter how good or bad
especially
the other
in the
team
national
is.
spotlight.
Yes, exactly. If you look in the history of these teams, it's been pretty rough. So you asked the Ezekiel Elliott question. I don't know if this is going to be the breakout game. I feel like, this is one of his better opportunities because look at the Chicago defense. They can hold you for a little while, but I think after, getting pounded for, more than maybe a quarter or two, I don't know how much they can handle it. And I think Dallas is going to try to do that. I think Dallas is going to try to get this kid's confidence back and not allow him to go into the rest of this year thinking, well, we're not trusting you. I think they want to trust him and they want to prove something. So it would not surprise me if they didn't put it more on him, but we'll see.
I will say be careful because Tracy Porter is one of those annoying corners, and he could get into Dez's head and bug him a little bit. So, just putting that out there. Watch out for that matchup of Tracy Porter and Dez if that's who is going to actually be on him. So we get into the Monday night game of the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints. This is always fun because they're going to be putting up points. It's a fantasy dream for that Monday night, or it's a fantasy nightmare if you're the team that has one of these players you're hoping doesn't score a lot of points. I'm going to go with the Saints at home. They're in a must-win situation. It's in the big spotlight of Monday. This is usually always a close game, whether it's ultra defensive, where it has been sometimes, or it's ultra points. I'm going to go with the Saints here. But, geez, I don't necessarily feel too confident about it.
Yeah, I look at the Saints as a team that, they play really good at home. And, I think they gave the Giants a run for the money, a team that really, honestly, I figured was going to take care of business against them because their defensive line was going to be getting, Drew Brees' face, but it just didn't happen that way. And Atlanta's defense is nothing to really just get you excited about. Sure, this could be a little bit of a shootout because Matt Ryan's having a pretty decent year. I just feel at the end of the day, New Orleans is going to take care of business because they're going to have home field advantage, and I just think that they'll find a way to win.
Yeah, I like the Saints here. I caution it's going to be a shootout thing. Again, I bring up the Saints and Giants. If you're expecting a ton of points from these guys, get ready for disappointment. I do think it's going to be a shootout as well. I'm just hedging my bet here. I like the Saints at home. I think Drew Brees is going to have a really big game. Look for a shootout, and Matt Ryan's going to be able to hold serve. I brought it up in the fantasy podcast that Matt Ryan's actually leading the league in fantasy points. So he's been able to sling it. Sanu kind of struggled last week. Look for him to get the ball here, but I'd take New Orleans at home.
All right, that's us having picked all the teams, giving you some analysis on who we think is going to win and why, and that's going to do it here for the Week 3 preview on Football to the Max. Make sure you check out the Fantasy Football to the Max podcast, though. The Running Back Carousel, titled preview of Week 3 as well on their end, to give you all the fantasy insight. And, of course, those You Betcha challenges that are always fun to see who actually who wins those and not. So, yeah, and of course, if you're seeing this and you're a college football fan, we do a college football preview, which is also should be in your feed there if you're either subscribed to this show or subscribed to the WTM Network, which you can do to get all those podcasts that I just mentioned. And, of course, also the rest of the Max podcast, which, we preview Clash of Champions. That's going to happen on Sunday. So lots of stuff going on this weekend and then going into that Monday. So it should be an interesting one. Once again, want to say, that I lost my grandpa this morning yesterday morning. And want to say, that he was a great man and he always loved the Cowboys, loved the Razorbacks, looked forward to those football weekends, And, I'm sure he would have been looking to watch the Cowboys here, especially. And my dad has season tickets, so they would have been looking to who was going to go to the game and everything. And I'm sure probably either my dad's going to try to sell those or I don't know. I'm sure nobody's going now, but just kind of reminded me there at the end of thinking about this, and it makes me think of him. But yeah, so until we see you on the Tuesday show again, subscribe, go to WTMnet.com to check out all of our great content there, and we'll see you later, everybody.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.